as far as, I just mentioned the future, or I briefly touched on, where we might be in 10 or 15 years, and I have no idea really. So where do you think esports is heading? Like in 10 years, 15, 20 years, what's on the horizon for, the community?
Look the same as traditional sports, but add in a whole bunch of content creation on top of that. So a big thing that happens in the esports space or the gaming space is that, I guess if you look in traditional sports, right, you don't see the top stars are creating their own content. They're not getting hands-on with their fans. And that's one of the big advantages of the gaming space. So not only is a top player one of the best in the world, but often they're streaming. They're interacting with people. They're doing their own meetups. They're taking on their own sponsorship. They're going out on their own and doing interactivity and building their own little communities, among the other things. They're not relying on Aston Villa to do it for them, Collingwood Football Club to do it for them, etc. So, esports has seen that meteoric rise where now it's valued at somewhere around $1 billion globally, USD. It's just going to keep growing just like traditional sports have. There's going to be more live facilities that are opening. That's a big trend at the moment around the world. There's a lot of gaming teams that now have their own up to 20,000 square foot facilities, just like traditional sports teams do. They have their offices in their production studios, but also training facilities for their teams, where they've got full-time chefs that prepare meals for them, dietitians, exercise coaches, mental coaches, et cetera, that are all part of those services. And then you're going to see more of the grassroots offerings come up as well, feeding into those, and more of these global leagues that are happening. For example, like the Dota 2 League, the Dota 2 International, $34.6 million prize pool, just finished in China a few months ago. Tickets sold out in 30 seconds for that. League of Legends is going into China in a big way next year. I think their finals this year was something like a 12,000 seat. It's going to be 25,000 next year. And I'll be extremely surprised if that doesn't sell out. And they'll just start going bigger and bigger from there on in. You'll see larger salaries, larger buyouts for players. For example, a buyout happened just the other day for 1.5 mil for a League of Legends player. Another League of Legends player signed a $2 to $3 million contract over 2 years. So starting to get into the real sport money sense where it's at, AFL, NFL, MLS type numbers, not quite at FIFA numbers yet.
Interesting. So I'm a big UFC fan. Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're a jiu-jitsu man, so I thought you might be. So I watched every fight from UFC 32 when Dana White and his buddies bought it, up until UFC 100. I've watched every fight because I had the DVDs, the UFC 10-part pay-per-view DVDs.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I've followed it quite heavily since UFC 50-odd. And then I bought the old DVDs and then watched it all the way through. And then I've been a big fan ever since. And I remember that Dana White said, we want to be the biggest sport in the world. We're going to be bigger than the NFL in 10 years. And he said that maybe 10 years ago. And close. People laughed at him. They weren't even bigger than boxing then. So the sport that I would say that has had the biggest meteoric rise in our generation would probably be the UFC, or mixed martial arts as a sport, and UFC is obviously the league. So Dana White was laughed at 10 years ago when he said, we want to be bigger than the NFL. And now, worldwide, they probably are. In America, they're probably not. But in 10 or 20 years, judging by, I don't know anything about the trajectory, but judging from what you've told me and the very little that I do know, I feel like it's growing so fast that you could make a similar outlandish statement. But would you see that in 10 years' time or 20 years' time that, the major sports worldwide are European football, UFC, maybe NFL or NBA, and esports? Is that a fair statement on the trajectory of how fast it's growing?
Yeah, for sure. And remember, it's important to remember that esports is a category. So underneath esports, you got League of Legends, Fortnite, etc.
Yeah, each game or each sport.
But if you look at some of the numbers, for example, Fortnite, their league for their Fortnite World Cup for this year, $100 million prize pool as a whole. They went to how many acres was the facility? It was like a multiple acre facility where the global finals were. And they've got people there like Ninja, who has 7 million Twitter followers. They've got people there like FaZe Clan, whose FaZe's Instagram account has 7 million followers. They're invested in by Offset, who's Cardi B's husband. They've got NFL players. They've got Ben Simmons, who's one of their main ambassadors.
Who's got the biggest following, social media following worldwide in esports?
For an esports team, FaZe by like 100-fold. But not literally 100-fold, but literally probably 5-fold. The hard difference is where you're crossing over the lines between esports and gaming. What is esports? What is gaming? So if you're an influencer that plays in some tournaments, but that's not really your goal, you're more streaming. Are you esports? Are you gaming? And that's where FaZe is blurring the lines a lot, which is why they're getting that 14 city blocks at New York City to their meetup.
So FaZe is a team?
Yeah, FaZe Clan is a team.
And what are we talking like Instagram, Twitter, and so forth followers?
So FaZe as just the organisation has 7 million Instagram followers, 7.1, but most of their top guys, like 15 of their guys, will each have over a million each, for example.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at global reach and how big something or someone is. You know, like you can look pretty closely at UFC fighters, NBA players, and it's got a real clear-cut definition of how popular and how worldwide.
Same advice I give for games. When you want to figure out how big a game is, look at their social following.
Exactly. You know, and I'll use NBA for example. LeBron has 54 million, I think. Steph Curry might have 14 million, and then like Kevin Durant is 8 million.
Yep.
So if you look at, and then it's like 4, 3, 1, 1, 1. So once you're 5 people removed from the top, the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th most followed social media athlete in the NBA, you're at that level where the esports individuals are already.
And if
1 million, which is pretty crazy to think about.
And some other stuff too, like Offset. When he invested in there, he did
this is Cardi B's dude.
Yeah, he did some content based around it too, and played NFL with some of the FaZe people in the house. So FaZe have 2 20-bedroom mansions in LA next door to each other, and that's where they live. There's Clout Gang in one, they're called, which is mainly the YouTubers, and then FaZe Clan in the other one. He said, I gained 200,000 Instagram followers in a day by saying I was involved with FaZe. So there's that transfer coming back in the other direction now as well. Even if you look at the wider, younger market, Will Smith is on TikTok because no kids know who he is anymore. Like you talk to like one of my employees, he talked to his younger brothers and stuff. He showed them Chris Hemsworth, don't know who that is. Showed them Terry Crews, I don't know who that is. Will Smith, I don't know who that is. They know some people as the Bird Box lady, the man that plays Thor. They know like, did that guy play Spider-Man? But they don't actually know who these people are anymore because they're not relevant to them whatsoever. They don't care. They want to watch the movie because it's really cool, but they don't care about who's behind it because the way that it's the opposite now is the accessibility, like I was saying with gaming and esports. It used to be in the past, an actor and actress was cool because you'd only see them once a year and there's no way you could ever talk to Hugh Jackman. But now, like one of the TikTok people we work with, Jade, who's based in Canada, she's 18, she makes 7 pieces of content per day. She does 3 TikToks, she posts on Instagram, she does stories, she's on Twitter, she's on YouTube, she's on LinkedIn, because people want to get access to her. They want to be able to ask her questions. They want to be able to interact with her.
They want more real people.
Exactly.
They want more behind the scenes, more candid. That's why podcasting's so huge and so popular.
Yeah.
Because it's real.
Yeah, and that's why like I keep unsubscribing to Audible all the time because I always ask myself that question. Is it worth paying this when I can listen to podcasts? When Joe Rogan will have the person who wrote the book on. Should I just listen to that for free? Or should I listen to Sam Harris, or should I listen to a marketing podcast, or should I listen, depending on what I'm feeling like at that time? Do I need to pay however many dollars a month for Audible when I can just listen to the people talk on his podcast for free?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating how quickly celebrity and everything is changing. I looked at, I went to a TikTok talk at my co-working space in QV in the middle of the city, and it was basically an influencer marketing agency talking about the rise of TikTok.
Oh, I wanted to go to that, but I had to miss it. Yeah, I had a meeting on.
Yeah, it was all right. It's pretty interesting, but they were talking about the fact that as far as the social media trends go, kids under 18 years of age aren't on Facebook whatsoever.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, and very anti-Facebook too.
Yeah. Instagram is like 4th on the social media usage under 18. I'm also butchering some of these statistics, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was, as actual eyeballs and minutes spent on any social media app under 18 years of age, TikTok's number 1.
Yeah.
That's fucking insane. And YouTube is still massive. And then, I'm not sure what number 3 was, but I think YouTube was number 2. But yeah, it's a funny way the world is just changing so rapidly. And I believe that, real old school celebrities, old fashioned celebrity movie stars and so forth aren't really a thing. And you can see it in Hollywood blockbusters. They just are way more few and far between. They're not coming out anymore. And now it's all streaming. It's all television and it's all streaming, Netflix, all the big movie stars are all now the big Netflix stars and the big Stan stars and they'll be the big Disney Plus stars and for all their unique pieces of content. So fascinating world we live in. But from your bio, I noticed that, you're very tech heavy and you've written about tech before in the past and so forth. So outside of gaming for a second. What's got you most fired up about tech in general and the future of the society that we live in?
It's really hard to say. Like talking not so much just about technology as a platform, but about TikTok is something that I got a lot of interest in. So Jade, who I mentioned, we're doing a project together. We're bringing in a lot of other talent because like you're saying before, the attention economy is really interesting to me. The fact that Jade, with 1.2 million views on TikTok, gets 68 million video views a month, and she did a meetup in Alberta where she lives at a Westfield. She got 2,000 kids to turn up, and some of the kids were crying because they got to meet her. And at that stage, she'd only been making content for 6 months, so she was a massive celebrity in their eyes. That kind of stuff is very interesting to me. As far as like the whole technology goes, for me, solar, batteries, and electric cars. Electric cars is something that's really interesting to me. Someone who's been using electric push bikes for, I don't know, probably 20 years was the first time my dad made one with a wheelchair motor and a car battery on a bike, and used to make his own bikes and stuff. That's always been really, really interesting to me around that kind of technology. Yeah, green technology.
Interesting. Actually, just on the TikTok thing, just to wrap it up, I actually don't mind it. I think it's a lot healthier than Instagram. If we have to have, I mean, it seems to me it's funny. It's just little. Can you be creative? Creativity is great. If you've got a creative Instagram, no worries. I totally, I follow lots of people on Instagram, and lots of brands and so forth. And creativity is one of the great things in life, really. But where Instagram went wrong is it just went aesthetic. Everything's aesthetic, and that's not good for people. But TikTok, I don't really use it very often. I have used it. I have an account and so forth. I've never posted. But it's, as far as something that's going to steal our attention, it's certainly a lot better than Instagram because it seems fun, and it's promoting creativity and humour, I feel like. That's really, they're just like little 10-second snippets of something that can make you laugh.
Yeah.
Which is certainly not the worst thing in the world.